David, thanks so much for coming on the program. Great talking to you tonight.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Cam.
And good news out of Kentucky. What can you tell us about this case? It sounds like this was a case dealing with a commuter protection law or commuter protection language?
Right. It involves a young man, Michael Mitchell, and he was an employee at the University of Kentucky Medical Center. His colleagues, his coworkers thought he had a firearm in his locker, and he told them he didn't. The University of Kentucky police came and, with his permission, opened up his locker, saw he was telling the truth, and he noted that he did have a firearm, but he had it in his car, and he had an absolute constitutional and statutory right under the laws of Kentucky to do so. Nevertheless, the University of Kentucky police went out to his vehicle, seized his firearm, and then he was summarily fired thereafter. And the lower court, the trial court, said there was no problem with this. And today, the Kentucky Supreme Court ruled that this was a violation of his rights, that this was unacceptable. He did, in fact, have a right to have that firearm in his vehicle, and he'll have an opportunity now to seek back pay and back wages. So it's really a significant victory for gun owners throughout Kentucky.
Absolutely. And does this mean now that in the future, those who are concealed carry holders who perhaps work there on campus, they can store their firearms in their car without having to worry about being fired or if they're students being expelled from school?
That's exactly right. And it's really an important victory because the anti-gun movement, they know they can't beat us in the legislature and the court of public opinion, so they go to some of these politically correct employers like the University of Kentucky or others, and they try to convince them to make it so that you can't bring a firearm into the parking lot. And that, of course, since most people drive around, it really is a very significant infringement on the right to carry. If you can't have a firearm in your car, then you've really been deprived in a very meaningful way of the right to carry. And so for these employers to be put on notice in Kentucky and really throughout the country that, the NRA isn't going to stand for this and neither of the courts, it's really a significant victory.
That's right. So this applies, not just at the University of Kentucky, but this applies throughout the state.
Correct. That's exactly right. And I think it sends a message. Technically, this is a decision about Kentucky, and it applies throughout the state of Kentucky, but it sends a broader message, I think. The NRA has been very successful in recent years in passing laws like Kentucky in other states, and it shows employers in those states that these laws are going to be upheld. They're very clear. They give individuals with concealed carry permits or who otherwise have the right to carry the opportunity to keep those weapons in their car and to effectively exercise their right to carry.
Absolutely. I know that, when Oklahoma passed its parking lot law a few years ago, it was challenged in court. Ultimately, a court of appeals in Denver ruled in favor of the parking lot law. We saw a similar challenge in Florida. That law was also upheld down there. So, again, just more indications that the law protects the rights of Americans, and there is no conflict here.
Right. The Oklahoma and the Florida cases, both of which I litigated for the NRA to defend their validity, those were important in showing these laws are perfectly constitutional. Mm-hmm. Today's decision is really important because it shows they're going to be enforced, and we're not going to let employers, politically correct employers, push gun owners around and treat them unfairly the way Mr. Mitchell was.
Absolutely. Well, listen, David, thank you again, sir, for coming on the program. Thank you for all the work that you're doing on behalf of gun owners, NRA members, and the Second Amendment, and look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cam. Have a good evening.
You too.